Hello, and welcome to Nexus Story Network.
The alien ship fell from the sky like a burning star. Captain Thex 9 watched his displays with growing fear as the red warning lights covered his command screen. The Void Whisper was dying around him and there was nothing he could do to save it. "Sir, the main engines are gone," his engineer reported. "Breach on levels 3 through 7. Life support is failing." Thex 9 closed his 4 eyes and made the hardest decision of his long career. Abandon ship. Set course for the third planet. We'll have to crash land. The third planet was a blue and green world that his people, the Zephyrians, had marked as unimportant. The beings there were primitive. They had not even learned to travel between stars yet. They would be perfect witnesses to watch his ship die, but they would never understand what they were seeing. The Void Whisper screamed through the atmosphere of the planet the locals called Earth. Thex 9 felt the ship shake and twist as it fell toward the surface. Through the viewing screen, he could see vast forests of green trees rushing up to meet them. "Brace for impact," he shouted. The ship hit the ground like a hammer striking metal. Trees snapped and broke as the massive vessel carved a deep scar through the forest. It slid for miles before finally coming to rest in a valley surrounded by tall mountains. Smoke rose from 100 different holes in the ship's hull. The beautiful silver metal that had once gleamed like starlight was now twisted and black. The engines that had carried them across the galaxy were silent forever. Thex 9 pulled himself from his captain's chair. Around him, his crew was checking for injuries. They had been lucky. Only 3 of his 20 crew members had died in the crash. "Status report," he ordered. "The ship is finished, sir," his chief engineer said sadly. "The quantum core is cracked. The gravity drives are completely destroyed. Even if we had a full repair facility, we could not fix this damage." Thex 9 nodded. He had expected as much. The Craven Collective had hit them hard during their last battle. Those war-loving monsters had weapons that could tear through even Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. "What about the self-destruct?" he asked. "I can try to activate it, sir, but with the power systems damaged, I cannot promise it will work completely." "Do it anyway. We cannot leave our technology for these primitives to find." The engineer worked at his controls for several minutes. Finally, he looked up. "Sir, the self-destruct has activated, but it is only running at 30% power. It will destroy some systems, but not all of them." Thex 9 thought about this. 30% would have to be enough. Even if some technology survived, what could these primitive humans do with it? They still used chemical rockets to reach their own moon. They would look at Zephyrian technology the way a cave dweller might look at a computer. "Send the distress signal," he ordered. "Tell them we need immediate pickup." While they waited for rescue, Thex 9 walked through his dying ship one last time. The Void Whisper had been his home for 15 years. He had explored distant galaxies in this vessel. He had made first contact with 6 different alien species. Now it would end its days as scrap metal on a backward planet. The ship's corridors were dark except for the emergency lights. Many sections were completely without power. In the science labs, delicate instruments lay broken on the floor. The medical bay was flooded with coolant from broken pipes. The navigation center, where the ship's quantum brain had once calculated jumps across space, was now just a room full of dead screens. But even in its broken state, the ship was still a miracle of technology. The walls were made of quantum crystalline metal that could repair itself under normal conditions. The engines used gravity waves to push the ship faster than light. The computers could think almost like living beings. Thex 9 ran his hand along one of the walls. Even damaged, he could feel the faint vibration of the quantum crystals trying to heal the ship, but without power, they could not work fast enough to matter. 3 hours later, the rescue ship arrived. It was another Zephyrian vessel, the Star's Edge, commanded by Captain Vel 12. Thex 9, we received your signal, Vel 12 said as he transported aboard. The Council wants a full report on what happened with the Craven. Later, Thex 9 said. First, let's get my crew off this world. They gathered in the ship's transport bay. Each crew member was allowed to take only what they could carry. Everything else would be left behind. Sir, the engineer said, should we try to remove the quantum core? Even damaged, it contains technology these beings should not have. Thex 9 looked around the bay. The core was the size of a small building and weighed thousands of tons. It would take days to remove it safely and the primitive humans might discover them at any time. No, he decided. The self-destruct damaged it badly. Even if they find it, they will never understand how it works. Let us go. One by one, the crew transported to the rescue ship. Thex 9 was the last to leave before he activated his transport device. He took one final look around his command center. Goodbye, old friend, he whispered to his ship. The rescue ship lifted off and disappeared into space, leaving the Void Whisper alone in its forest grave. But the ship was not truly alone. High above, human satellites had watched the entire crash. Military bases around the world had tracked the falling object. And in a secret facility in Colorado, Dr. Sarah Chen was already putting together a team to investigate. Dr. Chen was one of Earth's leading experts in what she called xenoarchaeology, the study of alien artifacts. She had spent her career hoping to find proof that humans were not alone in the universe. Now, that proof had literally fallen from the sky. How long before we can reach the crash site? She asked General Marcus Webb, the head of the military unit that handled unusual events. The area is remote, the general said. Canadian wilderness, about 200 miles from the nearest road. We can have helicopters there in 6 hours. What about other governments? The Chinese, the Russians? They saw it too, but they think it was a meteorite. We're the only ones who tracked it properly. We have maybe a day before they figure out what really happened. Dr. Chen nodded. Then we'd better move fast. 6 hours later, she was standing in the forest, looking at something that would change human history forever. The alien ship was enormous, at least 1,000 feet long and 300 feet wide. It was buried nose first in the earth, but most of its length was still above ground. The metal hull was like nothing she had ever seen. Even damaged and burned, it seemed to shimmer with an inner light. The ship's design was smooth and organic, like it had been grown rather than built. Dr. Chen called one of her team members. You need to see this. She followed him to a hole in the ship's side. Through the opening, she could see corridors lit by a faint blue glow. The emergency power was still working. It's beautiful, she whispered. Her team spent the next 12 hours making a basic survey of the ship. What they found amazed them. The technology was clearly hundreds, maybe thousands of years beyond anything humans had achieved. The ship's computers were still trying to repair damage. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living metal. And in the center of the ship, they found something incredible. Dr. Chen, you have to see this, called Dr. James Rodriguez, her propulsion expert. She followed him deep into the ship to a massive chamber in its heart. In the center of the room sat a device the size of a school bus. It was clearly damaged with cracks running through its crystal structure, but it still pulsed with soft light. What is it? She asked. If I had to guess, I'd say it's the ship's engine, but it doesn't work like any engine I've ever seen. There are no moving parts, no fuel tanks. It seems to manipulate gravity itself. Dr. Chen stared at the device. She was looking at technology that could change everything. Faster than light travel, clean unlimited energy, the ability to reach the stars. Can we move it? She asked. It weighs thousands of tons, but if we're careful, maybe. The real question is, should we? Dr. Chen thought about this. Moving the device would mean taking apart an alien ship. It would mean studying technology that belonged to someone else. It might even be considered stealing, but it would also mean that humanity could finally reach for the stars. Yes, she said. We move it. We study it. We learn from it. And if the aliens come back? Dr. Chen looked around the chamber at the walls that still glowed with alien power, at the devices that could teach humanity to travel between stars. Then we'll be ready for them. Over the next week, teams of scientists and engineers arrived at the crash site. They built a temporary base around the ship and began the careful work of studying every piece of alien technology they could find. The ship's computers were partially functional. With patience, human programmers began to decode the alien language and access the ship's records. They learned that the vessel belonged to a species called the Zephyrians, who were part of something called the Galactic Council. They also learned about the Craven Collective, the species that had destroyed this ship. The records showed them as a warrior race that conquered planets and enslaved other species. But most importantly, they learned that the Zephyrians considered humans to be primitive and harmless. The ship's records called Earth a backward world of no importance. This made Dr. Chen angry. The aliens had crashed on Earth and left their technology behind without even considering what humans might do with it. They thought humans were too stupid to understand it. They're wrong, she told General Webb. We can learn from this technology. We can build on it. We can make it better. The general nodded. Then let's prove them wrong. I'm authorizing Project Lazarus. We're going to rebuild this ship. Sir, with respect, that's impossible. The damage is too extensive, and even if we could fix it, we don't understand how it works. Then we'll learn. And if we can't fix it exactly as it was, we'll build it better. Dr. Chen looked at the massive alien ship. The task seemed impossible, but humans had done impossible things before. They had gone from first flight to the moon in less than 70 years. They had built computers that could think and machines that could see. Maybe they could rebuild a starship, too. Where do we start? She asked. General Webb smiled. With the best minds on Earth and with the belief that humans can do anything if they put their minds to it. As teams of experts arrived from around the world, Dr. Chen stood in the alien ship's command center. The screens were dark and the controls were silent, but she could imagine what it must have been like when the ship was alive. Soon, she promised herself, it would be alive again. But it would no longer be a Zephyrian ship. It would be something new, something human, something the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in what had once been the alien ship's main engineering bay. 6 months had passed since the crash, and the chamber now looked like the world's most unusual construction site. Human equipment sat next to alien technology. Welding sparks flew near devices that bent gravity. Computer cables snaked between quantum crystals that still pulsed with alien energy. Status report, she called to her team. Dr. James Rodriguez looked up from a massive alien engine component. His face was covered in grease and his hair stuck up in all directions. The gravity drive is more damaged than we thought. The quantum field generators are completely destroyed, but I think I know how they worked. Show me, Sarah said. James led her to a holographic display that showed a three-dimensional image of the alien engine. The display was human technology. The aliens had never needed such simple visual aids. Look at this, James said, pointing to a series of crystal formations in the image. These crystals create a field that makes the ship lighter than air, not by pushing against anything, but by actually changing how gravity affects the ship. That's impossible, said Dr. Lisa, the team's materials expert. She had joined them from the Navy, where she designed submarines. Now she was trying to understand metal that could repair itself. No, it's not impossible, James replied. It's just really, really advanced. The crystals vibrate at specific frequencies that interact with something called the quantum foam. I don't fully understand it yet, but I can see how it works. Sarah nodded. This was the pattern they had seen over and over again. The alien technology seemed impossible at first, but when they studied it carefully, they could begin to understand the principles behind it. The problem was building their own version. What about materials? Sarah asked Lisa. Lisa shook her head. That's our biggest challenge. These crystals are made from elements that don't exist on Earth. We've tried to synthesize them, but we don't have the technology to create matter at the quantum level. So, we can't build a gravity drive? I didn't say that, Lisa replied with a smile. I said we can't build their gravity drive, but maybe we can build something better. She led them to another workstation where a strange device hummed quietly. It looked like a combination of alien crystals and human superconductors, all wrapped in a framework of Earth's most advanced materials. I took their basic design and modified it, Lisa explained. Instead of using impossible crystals, I used our best superconductors arranged in the same pattern. The effect isn't as strong, but it works. And because we understand the human components, we can control it better. James stared at the device. You built a gravity manipulator using Earth technology. Not just Earth technology, human thinking. The aliens built their crystals to be perfect. Ours are designed to be adjustable. We can change the frequency, modify the field strength, even shut it down completely if something goes wrong. This was the breakthrough Sarah had been hoping for. They didn't need to copy the alien technology exactly. They could use human engineering to make it better. What about the computer systems? She asked Dr. Michael Park, their computer expert. Michael was a small, quiet man who had spent his career designing artificial intelligence. Now he was trying to understand how alien computers could think like living beings. The alien computers are incredible, he said. They don't just process information. They actually understand it, but they're also completely alien. The way they think is so different from humans that we can barely communicate with them, so we can't use them. Not directly, but I've been working on something else. Michael led them to a computer terminal that looked mostly human except for the alien components integrated into its design. I've created a hybrid system, he explained. Human programming interfaces with alien processing power. The alien computer does the heavy thinking, but we control what it thinks about. He typed a command into the terminal. Immediately, the screen filled with complex calculations about gravity field manipulation. Ask it to design a better gravity drive, Sarah suggested. Michael typed the request. Within seconds, the screen showed detailed plans for a device that combined alien principles with human engineering. It was more advanced than anything either species had built alone. Incredible, James whispered. It's learning from both technologies and creating something new. This was the pattern that was emerging throughout Project Lazarus. The humans weren't just copying alien technology. They were improving it by combining it with human innovation. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Emily Watson was doing the same thing with alien healing technology. The aliens had devices that could heal almost any injury, but they were designed for alien biology. Emily was modifying them to work on humans. The alien medical scanners can see inside the human body in ways we never imagined, she explained to Sarah. But their treatment systems assume alien physiology. So, I'm building hybrid devices that use alien scanning with human medical knowledge. She demonstrated by scanning Sarah's hand with a device that looked like a flashlight crossed with a telescope. The scanner showed every bone, muscle, and blood vessel in perfect detail. Amazing, Sarah said. How long before we can build these for hospitals? I'm already working on simplified versions. Within a year, we should have medical scanners that make our best equipment look like Stone Age tools. Throughout the ship, similar work was happening. Human engineers were studying alien weapons and designing better human versions. Alien energy systems were being combined with human power grids. Even the ship's basic structure was being redesigned using a combination of alien materials and human engineering. But the most important work was happening in the ship's bridge. Commander Lisa Jiang, no relation to Dr. Lisa Jiang, was a military pilot who had been chosen to captain the rebuilt ship. She was working with a team of interface designers to create control systems that humans could actually use. The alien controls are completely wrong for humans, she explained to Sarah. They were designed for beings with 4 arms and brains that work differently than ours. A human pilot would crash this ship in minutes. So, what's the solution? Lisa gestured to the bridge around them. It still looked mostly alien, but human displays and controls had been added throughout. We keep the alien systems for power and speed, but we add human interfaces for control. Look at this. She sat in what had been the alien captain's chair. With her modifications, it now looked like the cockpit of an advanced human aircraft. The displays showed information in ways humans could understand. The controls were positioned where human hands could reach them. The aliens designed their ship to work perfectly, Lisa explained. But humans design things to be flexible. Our version can be modified, updated, and improved. When we're done, this ship will be able to do things the aliens never imagined. Sarah was amazed by what her team had accomplished in just 6 months. But she was also worried. The work was happening faster than anyone had expected, and that was attracting attention. General Webb found her in the ship's laboratory area. His expression was serious. "We have a problem," he said. "Satellite images show that other governments are building bases near our perimeter. The Chinese have 300 troops 50 miles south of here. The Russians have a research team 100 miles north. They know what we found. They suspect. And there's something else. Our radio telescopes have detected signals from deep space. Someone is trying to contact Earth." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "The aliens?" "We think so. The signals are coming from the same direction the ship came from. Whatever species sent this ship, they know it crashed here." Sarah looked around the laboratory where her teams were making progress beyond their wildest dreams. Human technology was advancing by decades every single day. But now it seemed like they were running out of time. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Unknown. The signal started 3 days ago. If they're coming here, it could be weeks or months depending on how fast their ships are." Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "We need to speed up the project. I want teams working 24 hours a day. We need to get this ship flying before the aliens arrive." "Sarah, that's impossible. You said yourself it would take at least 2 years to rebuild the ship." "That was when we were trying to fix it exactly as it was. But we're not doing that anymore. We're building something new, something better." She called a meeting of all the project leaders. Standing in the alien ship's main corridor, she addressed the best minds Earth had to offer. "We have a new timeline," she announced. 6 months. We need this ship operational in 6 months. "That's impossible," Dr. Rodriguez protested. "We haven't even finished understanding the basic systems." "Then we'll finish understanding them while we rebuild them. We'll test as we build. We'll solve problems as we find them." "The risk is enormous," Dr. Park added. "If we make a mistake, we could destroy the ship completely. And if we don't try, the aliens might come back and take it away from us," Sarah replied. "This is our chance to join the galaxy as equals, not as primitives who found someone else's broken toy." She looked at each of her team leaders. These were people who had dedicated their lives to pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Now she was asking them to push further than anyone had ever gone before. "I know it seems impossible," she said. "But humans have done impossible things before. We went from the first airplane to landing on the moon in 66 years. We built computers that can think and machines that can see. We split the atom and decoded DNA." She gestured to the alien technology surrounding them. "This is our Apollo program, our Manhattan Project. Our chance to prove that humans belong among the stars. Are you with me?" One by one, her team leaders nodded. They were scientists and engineers, but they were also human, and humans had never backed down from a challenge that seemed impossible. Then let's get to work, Sarah said. We have a ship to build. As her team scattered to their workstations, Sarah stood alone in the corridor. Through the holes in the ship's hull, she could see the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. Somewhere out there, aliens were traveling toward Earth, probably expecting to find their broken ship exactly as they had left it. Instead, they would find something that had never existed before. A ship built with alien technology and human determination. A ship that combined the best of both species into something greater than either could achieve alone. Sarah smiled as she headed back to work. The aliens had made a mistake when they underestimated humanity. Soon they would learn just how big that mistake had been. But first, humans had to prove to themselves that they could build a ship that could travel among the stars. The hardest part wasn't understanding alien technology. It was believing that humans deserved to use it. That belief would carry them through the next 6 months as they worked to achieve the impossible. Because if there was one thing humans were good at, it was proving that impossible was just another word for not yet. The morning of the first test flight was cold and clear. Dr. Sarah Chin stood on the observation platform, watching her life's work prepare for its greatest challenge. The ship that had once been called the Void Whisper now bore a new name painted in bold letters across its hull, Terra's Wrath. 3 years had passed since the alien ship crashed in the Canadian wilderness. 3 years of 18-hour workdays, impossible deadlines, and brilliant innovations. The broken alien vessel had been completely transformed. The ship still looked alien from the outside, but closer inspection revealed the changes. Human-designed sensor arrays dotted the hull. The engines were a hybrid of alien gravity manipulation and human fusion drives. Most importantly, the ship now had weapons, not copied from alien designs, but created by human military engineers who understood warfare in ways the peaceful Zephyrians never had. Final systems check, announced Commander Lisa Jiang over the communication system. She sat in the captain's chair, surrounded by displays that combined alien efficiency with human intuition. Navigation systems online, reported Lieutenant Tom Mitchell, the ship's pilot. The navigation station looked nothing like the original alien controls. Instead of the confusing four-dimensional displays the Zephyrians had used, the humans had created a system that any Earth pilot could understand. Gravity drive showing green across all indicators, called Chief Engineer James Rodriguez from the engine room. The gravity drive was perhaps their greatest achievement. Not a copy of the alien original, but a human interpretation that was actually more stable and controllable. Weapon systems ready, added Commander Sarah Kim from the tactical station. The ship's weapons were purely human energy cannons that used alien power sources, but human targeting systems. Life support nominal, reported Dr. Emily Watson from the medical station. Even the life support systems had been redesigned for human physiology. Sarah watched from the ground as her creation prepared to fly. The ship sat on the launch pad they had built in the Nevada desert, far from curious eyes. Around the platform, hundreds of engineers and technicians monitored every system. General Webb stood beside her, his expression nervous. "Are you sure about this, Sarah? We could run more simulations." "We've run every simulation possible," Sarah replied. "But simulations can't tell us how the hybrid systems will interact in real flight conditions. At some point, we have to take the leap." The general nodded, but Sarah could see his concern. If the test flight failed, they might lose everything. Worse, they might lose the crew. But they were running out of time. The alien signals from space were getting stronger. Analysis suggested that multiple ships were approaching Earth and they would arrive within months. "Terra's Wrath, you are cleared for launch," Sarah announced into her headset. Inside the ship, Commander Jiang felt her heart racing. She had flown every type of aircraft the human military possessed. But this was different. This ship could travel faster than light. It could manipulate gravity itself. It represented everything humanity hoped to become. Beginning launch sequence, she announced. The gravity drive activated with a low hum that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. Around the ship, dust and small rocks began to float upward as the local gravity field shifted. Dr. Rodriguez watched his displays carefully. The gravity drive was working perfectly, but this was the easy part. The real test would come when they tried to achieve faster than light speeds. Gravity field stable, he reported. Ready for liftoff. Commander Zhang engaged the primary controls. The ship rose smoothly from the launch pad, as quiet as a bird. This was completely unlike human rockets, which roared and shook as they fought gravity. Terra's wrath simply made gravity irrelevant. Looking good from down here, Sarah reported. All systems showing normal. The ship climbed rapidly through the atmosphere. Within minutes, they were in space, looking down at the blue marble of Earth. "It's beautiful," whispered Lieutenant Mitchell. He had seen Earth from space before in conventional spacecraft, but somehow this felt different. They weren't visitors to space anymore. They belonged here. Beginning faster than light systems test, Commander Zhang announced. This was the moment of truth. The faster than light drive was the most complex part of the ship. It required the gravity drive, the quantum computers, and the navigation systems to work together perfectly. Dr. Rodriguez monitored the systems carefully. Quantum field generators online. Gravity wave manipulators ready. Navigation computer has calculated a jump to the edge of the solar system and back. Authorizing FTL test, Sarah's voice came from Earth. Commander Zhang took a deep breath and engaged the faster-than-light drive. Reality twisted around the ship. For a moment, the stars seemed to stretch into lines of light. Then, suddenly, they were somewhere else entirely. The sun was now just another star in the distance. Jump successful. Lieutenant Mitchell shouted. We're 8 billion miles from Earth. The trip took less than a second. Inside the ship, the crew stared at their displays in amazement. They had just traveled further and faster than any human in history. But more than that, they had done it in a ship they had built themselves. Return jump in 30 seconds, Commander Zhang announced. The second jump brought them back to Earth orbit. Below them, the planet looked exactly the same, but everything had changed. Humanity was no longer trapped on one world. Terra's wrath to ground control, Commander Zhang reported. All systems performed perfectly. We are ready for extended flight testing. On the ground, Sarah felt tears running down her cheeks. They had done it. They had taken broken alien technology and made it into something purely human. But the celebration was short-lived. General Webb received an urgent message during the landing procedures. Sarah, you need to see this, he said. The message was from the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Australia. They had detected multiple objects approaching the solar system at faster than light speeds. Analysis of the energy signature suggested they were alien ships. How many? Sarah asked. At least 12 ships, possibly more. They'll be here within days. Sarah looked up at Terra's wrath as it settled onto the landing pad. One ship against 12 or more. The odds were not good. But then she remembered something important. The aliens were coming to reclaim what they thought was their own broken ship. They had no idea what they were really flying into. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Thex 9 stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Star Destroyer Vengeance. Around him, the Zephyrian fleet prepared for a simple recovery mission. Admiral, we will reach the primitive world in 2 days, his navigation officer reported. Good, Thex 9 replied. I want to recover the Void Whispers technology and leave as quickly as possible. These humans are beneath our notice. His science officer looked up from her instruments. Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the crash site. The humans may have attempted to study our technology. Thex 9 laughed. Let them look. They might as well try to understand the thoughts of gods. Prepare the recovery teams. But as the Zephyrian fleet drew closer to Earth, their instruments began picking up readings that didn't make sense. The energy signatures from the planet's surface were far more complex than they should be. "Admiral," the science officer said, her voice uncertain. "I'm reading active quantum field manipulations and, sir, I think there's a ship in orbit around the planet." "Impossible," Thex 9 replied. "These primitives barely have chemical rockets." "Sir, the energy signature. It looks like one of our ships." "But that's impossible." The Void Whisper was destroyed. Admiral Thex 9 studied the readings himself. What he saw made no sense. The energy patterns were definitely Zephyrian in origin, but they were stronger and more stable than any ship in his fleet. "Increase speed," he ordered. "I want to know what's happening on that planet." Meanwhile, on Earth, Sarah was coordinating humanity's response to the approaching alien fleet. Terra's Wrath was their only operational starship, but it wouldn't be fighting alone. "What about the orbital defense platforms?" General Webb asked. "They'll be completed in 24 hours, Sarah replied. "It's not much, but it's something." The orbital platforms were another human innovation. They combined alien energy weapons with human military tactics. Each platform was essentially a space-based fortress designed to protect Earth. And the ground-based installations? Also ready. If any alien ships make it past our orbital defenses, they'll find that Earth isn't as helpless as they think. Commander Jiang approached them. "Dr. Chen, I'd like permission to take Terra's Wrath out for advanced combat trials." "Absolutely not," General Webb said immediately. "That ship is humanity's most valuable asset. We can't risk it in unnecessary tests." "With respect, sir, those tests aren't unnecessary," Jiang replied. "We know the ship can fly, but we don't know how it handles in combat situations. When the aliens arrive, I need to know exactly what this ship can do." Sarah considered this. Jiang was right. They needed to understand the ship's combat capabilities, but Webb was also right about the risks. Limited trials only, she decided. Stay close to Earth, and at the first sign of trouble, you come home immediately. Commander Jiang nodded and returned to her ship. Within an hour, Terra's Wrath was back in space, running combat maneuvers that pushed both the ship and crew to their limits. What they discovered amazed them. The ship wasn't just fast and powerful. It was incredibly agile. The human modifications had made it more maneuverable than any ship the Zephyrians had ever built. "The gravity drive lets us change direction instantly," Lieutenant Mitchell reported. "We can accelerate, stop, and reverse without the crew feeling any force." "Weapon systems are incredibly accurate," added Commander Kim. "The alien power sources give us nearly unlimited ammunition, and the shields can absorb massive amounts of damage," Dr. Watson noted from her medical station. But the most important discovery was how well the human crew worked together. The alien ship had been designed for a species that made decisions slowly and carefully. The human version was built for a species that could think and react quickly in dangerous situations. Commander Jiang smiled as she put the ship through another series of impossible maneuvers. The aliens had given humanity a gift when they crashed their ship on Earth. They just didn't know it yet. "Terra's Wrath to ground control," she reported. "Combat trials complete. This ship is ready for anything." On the ground, Sarah watched the approaching alien fleet on her displays. 12 ships against 1. Those would normally be impossible odds. But the aliens were expecting to find their old ship broken and helpless. Instead, they were going to meet something that had never existed before, a ship that combined alien technology with human courage. Sarah smiled grimly. The aliens were about to learn that humans had taken their gift and made it into something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The approaching fleet represented species that had conquered worlds and enslaved entire civilizations. But they had never faced anything like what was waiting for them in Earth's solar system. Soon they would discover that the most dangerous thing in the universe wasn't superior technology or overwhelming numbers. It was a species that refused to give up no matter what the odds. The alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Like predators emerging from the darkness, Admiral Thex 9 stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the readings his sensors were providing. Something was very wrong. "Report," he ordered his science officer. "Sir, I'm detecting 12 orbital defense platforms around the third planet. They're armed with energy weapons that appear to be based on our technology." "That's impossible," Thex 9 replied. "These primitives don't even have faster-than-light travel." "Sir, there's more. I'm detecting a ship in orbit. The energy signature matches our records for the Void Whisper, but the power readings are 40% higher than they should be." Admiral Thex 9 felt a cold chill run through his body. The Void Whisper had been destroyed. He had watched it crash himself. There was no way these primitive humans could have repaired it. "Are you certain about these readings?" "Yes, sir. The ship is definitely based on Zephyrian technology, but it's been extensively modified." "Sir, I don't think we're dealing with primitives anymore." Before Admiral Thex 9 could respond, his communication officer received an incoming signal. "Sir, we're being hailed by the planet." "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. Admiral Thex 9 had studied human appearance as part of his mission briefing, but seeing one in person was still strange. They looked so young and fragile. "This is Commander Lisa Jiang of the Earth Defense Force ship Terra's Wrath," the human said. "You are entering protected space without permission. Please state your intentions." Admiral Thex 9 was too shocked to speak for a moment. The primitive humans were challenging him. They were demanding that he explain himself. "I am Admiral Thex 9 of the Zephyrian Star Navy," he finally replied. "We are here to recover stolen property. The ship you call Terra's Wrath belongs to us." Commander Jiang smiled, and Admiral Thex 9 didn't like the expression on her face. It reminded him of the look craven warriors had before they attacked. "I'm afraid you're mistaken, Admiral," she said. "The ship you abandoned here was considered salvage under galactic law. We have improved it considerably. It now belongs to Earth. You dare to claim ownership of Zephyrian technology?" Admiral Thex 9 shouted. "You are primitives. You have no right to technology you cannot understand." "Can't understand?" Commander Jiang's smile became wider. "Perhaps you should take a closer look at what we've done with your superior technology." Terra's Wrath suddenly appeared on Admiral Thex 9's screens, having moved from the far side of Earth to directly in front of his fleet in the space of a heartbeat. The maneuver was impossible. No ship could accelerate that quickly without destroying its crew. "How did they do that?" his pilot whispered. Admiral Thex 9 studied the ship on his screen. It still looked like the Void Whisper, but something was different. The hull gleamed with new armor. Strange weapons dotted its surface, and the energy readings were unlike anything in his experience. "Sir," his science officer reported, "I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies around their ship. Somehow, they've improved our gravity drive system." "Improved? That's impossible. Zephyrian technology is the most advanced in the galaxy." "Sir, the readings suggest their gravity drive is 3 times more efficient than ours." Admiral Thex 9 felt his world turning upside down. These humans had not just repaired his ship. They had made it better. "Admiral," Commander Jiang's voice came from the speakers. "I'm going to give you one chance to withdraw peacefully. Leave our solar system now and we'll consider this a misunderstanding." "You threaten me?" Admiral Thex 9 could barely control his rage. "I have 12 ships. You have 1. Quality over quantity," Commander Jiang replied calmly. "But you're welcome to test that theory." Admiral Thex 9 cut the communication and turned to his fleet commanders. All ships, prepare for battle. We will destroy that ship and teach these primitives their place in the galaxy. But as his ships moved into attack formation, Admiral Thex 9 noticed something that made his blood freeze. The 12 orbital platforms around Earth were moving, repositioning themselves to create overlapping fields of fire. And more concerning, his sensors were detecting energy buildup that suggested the platforms were charging weapons far more powerful than anything his fleet carried. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the platforms are targeting our ships. Their weapons appear to be modified versions of our own energy cannons, but the power readings are off the scale." "How much more powerful?" "Sir, each platform appears to be carrying weapons that could destroy one of our ships with a single shot." Admiral Thex 9 stared at the tactical display. One ship and 12 platforms against his fleet of 12 ships. The odds had seemed overwhelmingly in his favor. Now he wasn't so sure. "Begin the attack," he ordered anyway. "Target the lone ship first." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with energy weapons that could destroy mountains. Beams of concentrated power that had conquered dozens of worlds lashed out at Terra's wrath and bounced harmlessly off its shields. "Impossible!" Admiral Thex 9 shouted. "Our weapons can destroy anything." "Sir," his science officer reported, her voice shaking. "Their shields are some kind of layered system. It looks like they've combined our shield technology with something entirely new. The shields are actually getting stronger as we fire at them." "What do you mean stronger?" "Sir, I think their shields are somehow absorbing our energy and using it to power their own defenses." Before Admiral Thex 9 could process this information, Terra's wrath returned fire. The human weapons were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Instead of the focused energy beams the Zephyrians used, the humans fired what appeared to be packets of contained plasma that exploded with tremendous force. The first volley destroyed 2 Zephyrian ships instantly. "Evasive maneuvers, Admiral!" Thex 9 shouted. But it was too late. Terra's wrath was moving in ways that defied physics, appearing in one location and instantly jumping to another. The human ship was everywhere at once, striking from impossible angles. Within minutes, 4 more Zephyrian ships were destroyed or crippled. "Sir, we have to retreat." His tactical officer shouted over the alarms. "No. We outnumber them. Continue the attack." But Admiral Thex 9's problems were just beginning. The orbital platforms around Earth opened fire, sending beams of energy that made his own weapons look like flashlights. 3 more of his ships disappeared in brilliant explosions. "Sir, we've lost 9 ships," his communication officer reported. "The remaining ships are requesting permission to withdraw." Admiral Thex 9 looked at his tactical display in disbelief. In less than 10 minutes, his fleet had been reduced from 12 ships to 3. The primitives had done the impossible. They had outfought the Zephyrian Star Navy. "How?" he whispered. His science officer looked up from her instruments with an expression of pure terror. "Sir, I've been analyzing their tactics. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered before." "What do you mean?" "Sir, most species fight to minimize losses. They protect their ships and retreat when damaged. But these humans, they fight to win regardless of the cost. Their ship has taken damage that would force us to withdraw, but they keep attacking." Admiral Thex 9 looked at Terra's wrath on his screen. The ship was indeed damaged. He could see hull breaches and power fluctuations, but instead of retreating to safety, the human ship was accelerating toward his remaining vessels. "They're insane," he breathed. "No, sir, they're determined. And sir, there's something else. I've been monitoring their communications. This isn't their entire fleet." "What do you mean?" "Sir, they're referring to other ships under construction. According to their communications, Terra's wrath is just the first of several vessels they're building." Admiral Thex 9 felt the universe spinning around him. The humans hadn't just built one ship from his crashed vessel. They were building an entire fleet. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human ship," his communication officer reported. "Put it through." Commander Jang appeared on the screen again. Her ship's bridge was filled with smoke and sparks flew from damaged equipment, but her expression was calm and confident. "Admiral, I'm prepared to accept your surrender," she said. "Surrender?" Admiral Thex 9 could barely speak. "You're demanding that I surrender? You have 3 damaged ships remaining. I have 1 ship and 12 platforms, all still fully operational. The math is simple. But we are Zephyrians. We are a superior species. You are primitives." Commander Jang's expression became cold. "Admiral, let me explain something to you. 3 years ago, we were primitives. We couldn't travel between stars. We barely understood how your technology worked. But we learned. We adapted. We improved." She gestured to her damaged bridge. "This ship isn't just your old vessel repaired. It's your technology combined with human engineering. It's stronger, faster, and more powerful than anything you ever built." "That's impossible." "Is it? Look around you, Admiral. Look at what we've accomplished in 3 years. You gave us a gift when you abandoned that ship on our world. You taught us that we weren't alone in the galaxy. You showed us that there were species out there with technology we could barely imagine." Commander Jang leaned forward in her chair. "But you made one crucial mistake. You assumed that having advanced technology made you superior to us. You never considered that we might take your technology and make it better." Admiral Thex 9 stared at the human female on his screen. Everything he had believed about the natural order of the galaxy was crumbling around him. What do you want?" he asked. "I want you to take a message back to your people," Commander Jang replied. "Tell them that Earth is under human protection now. Tell them that we're not the primitives you remember. And tell them that if they come here again with hostile intentions, they'll face the consequences." "And if I refuse?" Commander Jang's smile returned, and Admiral Thex 9 realized it was the most terrifying expression he had ever seen. "Then you won't be taking any messages anywhere, Admiral." Admiral Thex 9 looked at his tactical display one more time. 3 ships against 13. His fleet was outgunned, outmaneuvered, and completely demoralized. I accept your terms," he said quietly. "Excellent. You have 10 minutes to collect survivors from your destroyed ships. Then I want you out of our solar system." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Thex 9 alone with his shame. The greatest military defeat in Zephyrian history had been inflicted by a species they had dismissed as primitives. As his remaining ships limped away from Earth, Admiral Thex 9 tried to understand what had gone wrong. The humans had taken Zephyrian technology and somehow made it better. But how? The answer came to him as he watched Terra's wrath on his rear sensors. The ship wasn't just flying. It was dancing through space, moving in ways that showcased perfect control and unlimited confidence. The Zephyrians had built their technology to be safe and reliable. The humans had rebuilt it to be powerful and flexible. Where the Zephyrians saw limits, the humans saw possibilities. But more than that, the humans fought differently than any species the Zephyrians had encountered. They didn't fight to preserve their ships or minimize casualties. They fought to win no matter what the cost. As Earth disappeared behind them, Admiral Thex 9 composed his report to the Zephyrian High Council. It would be the most difficult message he had ever sent. The primitives were primitive no longer. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they had announced their presence by defeating one of the galaxy's oldest spacefaring civilizations. The age of human expansion was about to begin. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive structure that floated in space between 12 different star systems. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered here to discuss matters of importance to the galaxy. Today they were discussing the impossible reports coming from a small yellow star on the edge of known space. Ambassador Vel 8 of the Zephyrian Republic stood before the assembled delegates, his forearms trembling as he delivered the most humiliating report in his species' history. Honored delegates, he began, I must inform the Council of a development in the Sol system. The chamber filled with the various sounds different species made when they were curious. Clicking, chirping, and whistling echoed through the vast space. The primitive species known as humans have somehow acquired faster-than-light technology, Vel 8 continued. A delegate from the Alaran Empire, a species that looked like giant insects, buzzed loudly. How is this possible? Our records show the humans have not even achieved interstellar travel. The situation is complicated, Vel 8 replied. 3 years ago, one of our ships crashed on their world. The crew was rescued, but the vessel was left behind. And they repaired it? Asked a delegate from the Crystalline Confederation. Worse, Vel 8 said quietly. They improved it. The chamber erupted in noise as hundreds of delegates expressed their disbelief in dozens of different languages. Silence, commanded the council speaker, an ancient being whose species was so old they had forgotten their original name. Explain how primitives could improve Zephyrian technology. Vel 8 activated a holographic display that showed the battle between Admiral Thex 9's fleet and Terra's Wrath. The assembled delegates watched in stunned silence as the human ship destroyed 9 Zaffron vessels in minutes. As you can see, Vel 8 said, the humans did not simply repair our technology. They combined it with their own innovations to create something entirely new. This is disturbing, the speaker said. How do we respond to this development? The Zephyrian Republic requests permission to send a full battle fleet to reclaim our technology, Vel 8 announced. But before the speaker could respond, another voice spoke from the chamber's communication system. I'm afraid that won't be possible. Every delegate in the chamber turned to look at the main communication screen. A human female in a crisp military uniform looked back at them. Behind her, they could see what was clearly the bridge of a starship. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force, the human said calmly. I believe you were discussing my species. The chamber erupted in chaos. How had a primitive species hacked into the most secure communication system in the galaxy? This is impossible. Vel 8 shouted. Our communication systems are protected by quantum encryption. Your quantum encryption is based on mathematics we mastered 6 months ago, Captain Chen replied. We've been monitoring this meeting since it began. The speaker managed to restore order to the chamber. Human, by what right do you intrude upon this gathering? By the right of a spacefaring species addressing the Galactic Council, Captain Chen replied. Earth formally requests membership in the Galactic Council. Membership? The speaker's ancient voice carried tones of disbelief. You have been a spacefaring species for less than 4 years. 3 years and 7 months to be exact, Captain Chen corrected. But in that time, we have developed technology that exceeds most council member species. We have defended our territory against unprovoked attack, and we have demonstrated our commitment to peaceful exploration of the galaxy. Peaceful? Vel 8 shouted. You destroyed 9 of our ships. You attacked us without provocation. Captain Chen replied coolly. We defended ourselves. If you consider self-defense to be aggression, perhaps you should reconsider your approach to diplomacy. The speaker studied the human on the screen. In his thousands of years of life, he had seen many species make their first contact with the galactic community, but none had ever arrived with such confidence. Very well, the speaker said. Earth's application for council membership will be considered, but first you must submit to standard evaluation procedures. What kind of evaluation? Captain Chen asked. Technological assessment, military capabilities review, and cultural compatibility analysis, the speaker explained. The process normally takes several years. I'm afraid we don't have several years, Captain Chen said. Our deep space sensors have detected a large fleet moving toward our territory. According to our analysis, they belong to the Craven Collective. The chamber fell silent. Every species in the galaxy feared the Craven. They were a warrior race that conquered worlds and enslaved entire civilizations. The Craven are moving toward your system, the speaker asked. A fleet of approximately 50 ships, Captain Chen confirmed. They should arrive in our territory within days. Then you are doomed, Vel 8 said with satisfaction. The Craven have never been defeated in battle. Captain Chen smiled, and something about that expression made every delegate in the chamber feel uncomfortable. We'll see about that, she said. The communication ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. Finally, the speaker addressed the chamber. I believe we should send observers to the Sol system, he announced. If the humans somehow survive contact with the Craven, we may need to reconsider everything we know about warfare. 3 days later, the Craven fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. War leader Gorth Prime stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher, studying the readings his sensors provided. Report, he growled. War leader, we detect a single inhabited planet in this system, his tactical officer reported. 12 orbital defense platforms and 5 ships in the inner system. 5 ships? Gorth Prime laughed, a sound like grinding metal. They think 5 ships can stand against the might of the Craven? This will be over quickly. But as his fleet moved deeper into the system, Gorth Prime began to notice things that troubled him. The human ships were moving in formation, but not like any formation he had ever seen. They seemed to be dancing around each other in complex patterns. What are they doing? He asked his tactical officer. Unknown, war leader. Their movement patterns don't match any known military doctrine. Gorth Prime studied the enemy fleet more carefully. The ships themselves looked strange. They appeared to be based on Zephyrian technology, but with significant modifications, and the energy readings were far higher than any Zephyrian ship he had ever encountered. War leader, his communication officer reported. We are being hailed. Put it through. The main screen filled with the image of a human female. Gorth Prime had fought dozens of species, and he prided himself on reading the fear in his enemy's eyes, but this human showed no fear at all. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force, the human said. You are entering protected space without authorization. Please state your intentions. I am War Leader Gorth Prime of the Craven Collective, he replied. We have come to conquer your world and enslave your people. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. The human actually smiled. I'm afraid that's not going to happen, War Leader. This is your only warning. Withdraw from our system immediately or face the consequences. Gorth Prime couldn't believe what he was hearing. You dare threaten the Craven? I have 50 ships. You have 5. Quality over quantity, Captain Chen replied. But you're welcome to test that theory. The transmission ended, and Gorth Prime turned to his fleet commanders. All ships, attack formation. We will destroy these impertinent primitives quickly and efficiently. The Craven fleet moved into their standard attack pattern, a formation that had conquered 100 worlds. Their ships were designed for one purpose, destruction. Each vessel carried enough firepower to level continents. But as they approached the human fleet, something unexpected happened. The 5 human ships suddenly spread out, moving in directions that made no tactical sense. Instead of forming a defensive line, they scattered across space. What are they doing? Gorth Prime demanded. Unknown, War Leader. This is not standard fleet doctrine for any known species. Before Gorth Prime could respond, the human ships opened fire. The weapons they used were unlike anything the Craven had ever seen. Instead of the energy beams or projectile weapons most species used, the humans fired what appeared to be contained gravitational distortions. The weapons didn't just damage Craven ships, they twisted them into impossible shapes before tearing them apart. Impossible! Gorth Prime shouted as he watched 3 of his ships die in the first volley. Our armor can withstand any weapon. War leader, his science officer reported, their weapons appear to manipulate gravitational fields. They're not breaking through our armor. They're distorting space around our ships until the armor tears itself apart. How is that possible? Unknown, war leader. The technology appears to be based on principles we don't understand. The battle continued, but it wasn't really a battle at all. Within 30 minutes, the mighty Craven fleet was reduced to wreckage floating in space. Gorth Prime found himself alone on the bridge of his crippled flagship, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. 50 ships reduced to scrap metal by 5 human vessels. War leader, his communication officer called weakly, the humans are hailing us. Put it through. Captain Chen appeared on the screen again. Her ship's bridge showed no signs of damage, while Gorth Prime's command center was filled with smoke and sparks. War leader Gorth Prime, she said formally. I am prepared to accept your surrender. Surrender? Gorth Prime could barely speak. The Craven do not surrender. Then you die, Captain Chen replied simply. Your choice. Gorth Prime looked around his ruined bridge. His crew was dead or dying. His fleet was destroyed. His entire worldview had been shattered in less than an hour. I surrender, he whispered. Excellent, Captain Chen said. You will be taken into custody and returned to Craven space with a message for your people. Any future attacks on human territory will be met with the complete destruction of your fleets. As Gorth Prime was taken prisoner, he tried to understand what had happened. The Craven had conquered dozens of species using superior firepower and ruthless tactics. But the humans had defeated them using something entirely different, technology so advanced it seemed like magic, combined with tactical thinking that was completely alien to Craven understanding. News of the Craven defeat spread across the galaxy within hours. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries had been destroyed by a race that most civilizations considered primitive. In the Galactic Council chamber, the speaker called an emergency session. The humans have accomplished something that has never been done before, he announced to the assembled delegates. They have completely defeated a Craven fleet without losing a single ship. The chamber was silent as delegates tried to process this information. Furthermore, the speaker continued, our observers report that the human fleet consisted of only 5 ships. They defeated 50 Craven vessels with 5 ships and took no casualties. Vel 8 of the Zephyrian Republic stood shakily. Honored Speaker. The Zephyrian Republic formally withdraws its claim to the technology found by the humans. We recognize Earth's right to that technology. Furthermore, Vel 8 continued, his voice barely audible, the Zephyrian Republic would like to open formal diplomatic relations with Earth. We believe we have much to learn from them. The speaker nodded. The Council hereby grants Earth full membership status, effective immediately. Captain Chen, please respond. The communication screen activated, showing Captain Chen on the bridge of her ship. But now the delegates could see that she was not alone. Behind her stood representatives from all 5 human ships. Honored Speaker, Captain Chen said, Earth accepts membership in the Galactic Council, but we want to make something clear to all member species. She gestured to her fellow captains. These ships represent only the beginning of human space capability. We currently have 20 more vessels under construction, each one more advanced than the last. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. But more importantly, Captain Chen continued, we want the galaxy to know that Earth stands ready to defend any Council member species against aggression. The age of conquest and slavery is over. Any species that threatens the peaceful development of galactic civilization will answer to the Earth Defense Force. The speaker studied the human captain. You would use your advanced technology to protect others? That's what civilized species do, Captain Chen replied. They protect those who cannot protect themselves. They stand against aggression and oppression. They work together to build a better galaxy for all species. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried across the galaxy to every listening species. The galaxy has a new guardian now, and we will not allow the strong to prey upon the weak ever again. As the communication ended, the speaker looked around the chamber at hundreds of delegates from dozens of species. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted permanently. Humanity had arrived among the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors. They had taken abandoned alien technology and forged it into something greater than its creators had ever imagined. The universe would never be the same. In the years that followed, human technology would spread to allied species, always freely given, never forced. The galaxy would enter an age of unprecedented peace and prosperity, protected by ships that bore the mark of human innovation and alien wisdom combined. And it all began with a broken ship abandoned in a forest, and the humans who refused to see limits where others saw only impossibilities. The aliens had indeed given humanity absolute retribution, not against Earth's enemies, but against the very concept that any species was too primitive to reach for the stars.